All right.
Power Colony.
Um, so this is the third. I think this is the third Newcomers, right? And this is the
I was in the second, yeah.
yeah, it must be the third. So that's a good way to start, right? um, I think I know what we're doing, right? So yeah, first round Group B, Power
So
Colony.
reasonable scavenger spot in the west. Not great water. Water's a bit awkward.
Yeah, that scavenger is a bit far away from the water. I mean, the robot where Scott Cole found it is the thing that's screaming
Eventually the
awesomeness
best, yeah.
because it's also far away from water, which seems to be probably going to be the problem with this map. But you're the robot, so
Mm,
three scavengers. That's really interesting.
yes, it is. Zorbaz is not going to have a fun time on his carbon, and Antaria is going to have even less of a good time.
Hmm. Yeah, if at least two of these scavengers had actual good carbon, then I would have said maybe it's fine to have so many scavengers because they can support each other, keeping the price okay. Uh, but two scavengers with just two low tiles, with just like a pair of lows,
Mm,
that's probably going to be problems somewhere by HQ3.
Glass started expensive, and electronics was half price as well. Just to compound Scott's lead at this point.
Yeah, it's probably going to turn out into it. He's already HQ level 3.
He's split up his things. It's not exactly new player behavior, but
Yeah, he's probably one of the more experienced players. I will say that it. I think that this tournament, the newcomers aren't like super new. Like a lot of them have played for a month and played extensively, and Scott Call is definitely one of the more experienced ones. And he's making the I want to say interesting call to go for silicon as quickly as possible because he's expecting glass to become important. But at the same time, that is some insane shipment, and that's going to turn into massive debt. And that's going to creep up pretty quickly in spite of the three scavengers.
mm, um, Rahi's making glass without any silicon as well.
Yeah, that's going to compensate that problem for Scott Call a little bit, and is probably the. It's a bit hard to judge. It's probably the best move for Rahi, but at the same time, just trying to grab some water, I think, would
He's
be
also auto
really good.
selling it down.
Sorry?
Rahi's auto selling glass at the moment.
Yeah, I would imagine that they just need the cash to do things. Although at
He's
this
already
point,
making everything else. He's getting reactors up as well.
yeah, reactors without water is going to keep water pretty high, and they're really good at the moment. But that's same as Raki's class. Basically, it's probably not going to last too long. And at the end of the day, one thing that people have to identify is that power is exceptionally important already.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a black market auction. And this is an interesting thing. This is something you probably won't see veteran players do with auction tile, black market item, because this is you're spending your cooldown on the black market and your cash to create
Yeah, it's
an auction that is very relevant to all the players around, and there's no guarantee that you're going to win it, as opposed to auctioning some kind of random tile without any resource in the middle of nowhere, which only you can make use of, which is the more common way to handle auctioning.
Yeah, I saw Scott boosted himself and checked everyone else's cooldown on the black market. Only Antario didn't have the money to buy anything. Rahi's already bought a boost himself, and Zorbaz clearly used the auction a tile to get that geotherm going.
Yeah, that's. I want to say that I'm suspicious that he probably did not uh, expect people not to have their cooldowns. I would be very impressed if he actually did. But yeah, this boost is slightly strange because it boosts on Metal Mine as opposed to Power, and it kind of works out because, well, it's nighttime anyway by the time that the boost on Power works out.
Yeah, I think it was entirely just for the power, and he wanted to get as many other tiles as possible. Should have solar panels inactive at night. It was probably still fine.
I'm a bit more on board with Rocky's boost on the Geotham, because that's going to
Yeah,
last out
already
the full
gooned.
duration,
Yeah,
and there's nothing anyone can do about that one.
yeah. Rahi's got a spy on Scott's so far unprotected pattern lab.
There you
There it
go,
is.
and we're seeing a goon squad on top of that, so that's pretty
Here it is.
much, yep. That's
Smart.
two full
I was wondering
patents.
why I was holding on to it. I think you did that to me yesterday. Um, Gooning immediately after mutiny.
Yeah, that's a classic move at this point. I think it's very hard to deal with that. Like, I'm not sure what you're supposed to do other than, well, goon your stuff in the first place. It's interesting that power is still not really dropping down, still rising actually, in spite of all the goon, of all the geotherms, of all the boosts coming on the
Boosts.
power,
Yeah.
and dust storms is thanks to that in part because solar panels are out. And Scott Cole is actually not positive on power at all, and in large part because of that silicon, which he actually committed to an extra tile of silicon, which I have to
It's a
question.
lot of shipping.
Yeah,
It's a lot of shipping.
that's a lot of shipping for very questionable benefit, because he already is sitting on almost 400 silicon, and he's not even consuming any. It sure is helping him to move into solar panels, but
Well, Rahi has got thinking machines, and he's trying to get virtual reality out of this one mutiny on that pattern lab. He's not going to finish virtual reality, but
well, the
we'll get
beauty
halfway through.
of their situation is that, well, actually, if only they had gotten a goon squad, they could have tried to continue the whole process with yet another mutiny and yet another goon squad, which
Mm.
guarantees that they're going to get at least, we'll finish VR and get another patent, probably.
He's gone for a pleasure dome. I don't like it right now. Don't like it at
Don't you?
all.
Um,
It'll be good later, but with price at 250.
but that's basically the best style. It's like building two farms. Well, the problem, of course, that power is at exactly the same price. So essentially, you're turning that into cash with that, or pretty much with a 1v1 ratio. But
Alright, war over this patent lab continues.
yeah, and there's
I
also
think it's in Scott's hands.
some strange mutinies on Ravi's Water for some reason by two different players. Those are the good water tiles, and water is pretty expensive, but I'm a little bit. I'm not really on board with these mutinies because at the end of the day, say Zorbaz actually has a pretty sizable stockpile, well, had a pretty sizable stockpile of water.
Mm.
And in a game with a lot of scavengers and only two real offensive market items, dragging that price way up so quickly is a natural thing to do, but at the same time, maybe you want to save those items for some more damaging, more impactful things, like advanced buildings.
Zorbaz is he's got a what's it called? Advanced building, the one that you can short things with,
Hackery.
market thing.
Yep.
Yeah, hacker. He's got that and he's shorting carbon.
That
Which
is,
admittedly he's the only one with a supply of it, but everyone else is also already making it. And he doesn't have a whole bunch of carbon that he's making as well.
yeah, that is very questionable, especially considering the fact that Raki still has the best carbon on the board. And
He's got the best, and he's about to take over the only other scavenger.
And
So,
yeah, not only the best carbon, but also there's another player making carbon, so you really don't want to hack a resource which there is so much competition going on, and you want to concentrate on something that you might have a monopoly on. Which in this case, really, you're not in a good position for that, because all you're making is life support and carbon at the end of the day. Well, aluminium, but everyone's making aluminium also. So I would probably... Yeah, so what I would do is, first of all, I would try to get some... First of all, he actually has teleportation, so I would try to replace the aluminium mines with some kind of production, like chems, because no one's making chems. Or glass. Well, glass actually being made, or electronics. So chems or electronics, and then you can hack either of those resources, because no one is competing with you with those. And while we were chatting about that, some interesting stock things happened. Rocky actually almost pushed to buy on Ontario.
and then backed off. Yeah. Also, Scott was about 20 seconds from getting teleportation when Zorbaz took it from him. And
Yeah,
Scott really wanted teleportation. He's spending, how much is it?
I don't really know.
2.8 power per second on just on shipping.
Yeah, that's a little bit on the insane side. And actually, there's a very simple solution to the shipment problem in his situation. You have to just press Control, press Shift, and press left click on one of your method quarries, and that solves the problem. By turning all of them off, because silicon isn't useful for anything, and you have 500 of it at the moment. Which, to be fair, power is not worth anything either. So I guess you can keep doing this, but it's just a bit depressing.
And is someone shorting water? That's a ridiculous price, and the only one with any stock is Ontario.
I can see Zorbaz going for another water shortage. I would assume he is the one who did it.
He's shorting, yeah.
But I don't think he's the one who benefited from it. So that's the danger. You're shorting a resource that literally everyone is making, and you have to keep in mind that while some players might actually be running a deficit, although I don't think anyone is. But on top of that, you have a robot who is not obliged to make life support at all, so it's very easy for him to just sell water for pure cash.
While all this was going on, Scott's got his first off-world. I haven't even looked at off-worlds. Off-worlds are tasty, actually.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Obviously, he's not making oxygen, so it's a question of how long it's going to last. But because of the awkward carbon situation, which, to be fair, the scavengers dealt with not too badly, but you can see that Zorbaz is getting the first off-world, and immediately carbon is over 100.
Yeah, it's usually a good idea to buy these things slowly up to the amount that you need, so that you don't get that massive spike that lets everyone know someone's built one.
Yeah, that is especially true for scavengers, because you just need so much more carbon than you need steel, so the spike is kind of easier to see in a way a lot of the time. Ontario is so at this point everyone defended themselves, and Ontario is actually trying to push into a buy. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah,
For
he was trying to get Zorbaz. Zorbaz spent a whole lot of money on a aluminium claim that is basically useless and was undefended at that point. I don't think he's going to sell out though, which he definitely should do. Clearly,
yeah,
didn't actually mouse over Zorbaz and see how much cash he's sitting on. Very easy to defend himself.
I will say that Ontario actually has quite a pile of money, but it's not quite enough of a pile, especially long term, because let's say that somehow this production, which by the way is crazy, if you look at how much electrolysis is making, and in
Yeah.
in part because of all the shipping that the scavengers are doing, because they found in craters, so first of all they're cramped, which I really don't like, where Zorbaz and Raki found it. But also, Raki is shipping water. They're shipping insane amounts of silicon, way more than they need.
That was a 50,000 spy. That's, I think, Scott just bought? No, Ontario is an
Crazy.
expensive spy.
Yeah, so Ontario does recognize that dead cash is not good. What he unfortunately decides not to recognize is that Scott just bought into him. So, to me, that
There's only
would
one response.
signal that he wants to kill you and you want to kill him at this point. So, buying into Rocky, I think, is a questionable move. Yes, Rocky is cheap. It's easier to get a purchase on them, but you have not defended yourself. And if you're not going to do that, then you're pretty much obliged to attack whoever is attacking you and hope that you can take them down and regain your stock that way.
Mm. A little while ago, Scott transitioned his lower triangle into steel. I assume he's thinking of another
I
off-world market, but he's also buying into Ontario. Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh,
um,
he's already got it. Oh,
even if he's not thinking about it, it's okay. No, the off-road he had was Mutiny, so that wasn't really something he built. Even if he's not going to build one, just having a stockpile of steel when steel is at 180, that doesn't sound bad.
he went into that before there was a short on steel, and I don't think anyone's shorting steel. No one else is making it.
I
I
would
hope
hope
no
no
one
one
was
is.
shorting steel.
I would hope none of the scavengers are shooting steel. So, interesting point is that Zorbaz has moved out of his hacker array, probably realized that he's not really getting much done with it, which I don't really want to blame anyone, but yeah, hacker array can be very tricky to use well. However, what it resulted in is him having a claim at
Hologrammed
the colony.
off-world market.
Yeah, and it's not going to get any bonuses, but it's one of the best ways to hide an off-world. Just uh, pretend that it's Pledge Dome. The only problem with that is if anyone has a spy over there, which no one seems to have, which should be a somewhat natural thing if you're replacing a known hacker array with an off-world. It should be very easy, very obvious for most players that they should have spied that tile. And you can never be sure that you're actually going to hide anything in there. Meanwhile, um,
Rahi's last to get to off-worlds, and he's the only one with optimization centers. I quite like the optimization centers, but he's
um,
for the amount of carbon that he's been pulling in, it's very very slow.
yeah, that's definitely true. Maybe a bit too much of that carbon was sold down. I wasn't really keeping track of that, and that helped the other scavengers to get into our folds. Because it's just so tempting to press that button when you see carbon at the price that it is now, um,
Mm,
at which it is now.
and now a short as well. Scott's sitting on a stockpile of stockpile of 900 steel at the moment, and only
and
one. Ah, there it is. Yeah,
casually
all right.
leaking 6 iron per second at half that price. So you really want to
No one else.
transition.
No one else has any iron claims though.
Yeah, you want to move out of all that, all the steel at this point, because you have enough for any transitions you ever need, and unless you're going to get back into iron, it's not going to make you any money whatsoever. And there's an excellent market in the form of glass. Food is also good. Generally, I'll say that this is the problem with scavengers and robots. They don't have too many claims. They're not super claim efficient. Their big advantages are quick upgrades. And at the end of the day, you get the market situation which you see right now with 364 electronics, 268 glass, insane carbon, insane
Insane
life
carbon
support.
and
Everything's insane.
carbon scrubbing still hasn't gone, and no one's got a patent lab. I would consider going straight for that, given where carbon is and where both chems and electronics are, especially for Scott. I don't think Scott has any carbon claims at all. Yeah, he doesn't.
Yeah, the only problem with it would be finding a claim to turn into a patent lab and paying the 300 priced chemicals. It is a bit questionable, but it's probably going to be worth it if anyone does that.
Well, he's coming out ahead on the mutiny war. He's taken Antario's off-world
Yeah, good use of
successfully.
mutinies there. Ontario decided not to hologram this off-world at this point. Basically decided it's uh, it's too expensive to buy mutinies, I guess, is what they decided. Which it
So
isn't,
far,
I
he's
guess.
spent 147,000 on mutinies. He's bought 5 of them.
Yeah, it was probably worth though, because at least half of them landed northwards, I think.
Yeah. This was the problem with Rise found. Cooped up
Yep.
in a crater.
Just one freeze and you're completely out of it. Like you're completely immobilized for about a minute. At this point, it's looking really. Oh wow, it's looking
Split.
like it's Scott's game at this point because he has all that crazy cash and he has full control of Ontario's stock. So it's just a matter of time before that buyout happens, and I don't know if Zorbaz has enough to show um, to compete with Scott Call at this point. He should really try to buy Scott's stock ASAP before Ontario buys more of it. Um, Unfortunately, I think that Ontario is currently only helping Scott win the game because he can only prolong it with this much. He's not going to scrape 500k in like 10 seconds time. So what he's doing now is he's letting Scott Cole buy him out and get all of his stock back, which means that Zorbas really doesn't have a chance now.
Yeah, Scott's already almost made the purchase.
Then again, it's a bit of a strange sort of what's the word? What's the English convention that kind of try to always stop the leader. And if you think about it, Ontario is going to lose anyway. So what does he care if Scott Cole wins or Zorbaz wins? So he doesn't really have to have Zorbaz, but for some reason we consider it to be a proper sign of etiquette, I guess, to always fight the leader. But yeah, at this point, Zorbaz needs an insane amount of cash. Pretty much about 1.5 million.
Yeah. Scott's now in control of 5 off-worlds to Zorbaz's 3.
Yeah, it's not looking very
Mm.
very
Water's
hopeful.
spiking,
Water, yeah. hmm, That is in part because Scott Cole is overproducing life
consuming,
support,
yeah, all the, yeah.
and apparently this water was not very good. So Rocky's sub decided, I don't need water, and that's also part of it. And because Rocky's production is so optimized, the sub is going to insist on not making water for a while. So I guess that's a little bit of a bonus for Zorbaz. Except it's also a bonus for Ontario, who is Scott's goals. Actually, is it though? No, Ontario is also leaking water because it's all those low tiles and a lot of life support
Yeah,
being
3
made.
low tiles. One of those carbons could be turned into water, though he never ended up doing that. And I thought he had. Oh no, that was a mutiny earlier. Yeah, they're the only water tiles he has.
This is the weirdest claim auction I've seen, I think. It's just a lone tile atop a cliff.
Yeah, it was a purchase
Yeah,
auction.
that's what I thought,
As
but I
why I couldn't tell you. Even at this point, the pirates on the water would be more useful, seeing as how
yeah. I,
Scott's only got one source of water.
Honestly, pirates were underused this game, especially if you remember that one time when I talked about mutinies on water, because water was a little bit expensive, although I guess it was a bit of an inflated price at the time. But even something like pirates supposed to mutiny there would have worked better, because pirates usually don't get used too much, in part because there's not lots of useful stuff to ship most of the time. Because usually base
Yeah.
resources, and there were enough base resources not to create a terrible price. At least there needn't have been the situation we're seeing with water at the moment. Honestly,
Sorry, yeah, go.
at this point, especially since Zorbat has Slandering, this water situation is his his hope to get back into the game. Um, he's making 10 per second.
Iron.
He boosted his farms, which I strongly disagree with, because
Scott's currently making uh 660 and 500 a second out of his 2 mines.
um,
Obviously, as a after effect from all the steel production, and no one's been selling aluminium for a while.
yeah. Again, to be fair, it's he's basically regaining the cash that he had wasted a while ago. So, but I guess at
He
the end of
also
the day,
sells by 10. Someone should tell him to shift click to sell these things faster.
I mean, maybe it's preference. Maybe he just likes hitting buttons.
Yeah, could be.
Also, you can alt click actually to sell your entire pile of stuff. So shift click is also not actually the most efficient way to do it.
Control shift down.
Well, that's actually not a terrible button to click in this situation, because you don't really have anything that you particularly want to keep a stockpile of, and everything you can sell is good. Honestly, auto-selling is something you just really need to do for stuff like fuel, cams, because they're being produced, so there's no reason to manually sell them.
I'm not sure when Scott went for the optimization center.
At some point, probably. Let's see, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 optimizations. Yeah, hmm, yeah, it's okay. I would have loved to see optimizations earlier from basically everyone this game.
Basically, everyone. Yeah, especially with the water the way it was. I mean, oxygen at 600. That's quite something.
Yeah, but unfortunately, water can only get you this far. So Zorbaz taken out, and this is the first win for Scott Cole. who has shown some very strong play here. Part of that is, I think, because he identified the spot correctly. Nothing else screamed awesome on this map. The robot there is just rock solid.
Mm. Yeah, there was very little else you could have done. It might have been a expansive, maybe difficult.
Yeah, but see, if you remember, Glassdot, it's a double price with electronics at half price, if I recall correctly. So a robot was really the way to go. I'm wondering if some kind of a robot in the bottom left corner was okay, but you kind of have to ship iron long distances. So and it's a power colony, so it's a bit iffy
Mm.
there.
If it was anywhere near the bottom right, it could have gone into power pretty readily with the
Yeah, but
silicon that was there.
again,
It
this
started
this
low.
map was
You couldn't start with it.
yeah, this map was extra tricky because power actually started half price. So so you could try to do that. I don't think anyone. I don't know. I've never done that. At least I've never gone for power with power 20. Well, maybe I have, but it's very tricky. I will say though that if
You couldn't start with it. You absolutely couldn't.
you could try, I mean,
You'd have to at least not auto sell until
I
it
guess
started getting a bit higher, because otherwise you'll keep it where it is. It won't increase in price.
yeah.
It won't spike the way it usually does.
Basically, if you're going for that kind of play, you're hoping to upgrade to HQ level 2 on Sol 2. Um, but it still could be good enough to catch up. But the problem with that is, or rather, with the benefit of this play would be that if you go for it, you're basically taking all the silicon on the map, and yeah, that's a monopoly there potentially. But it's just very tricky to play, so I absolutely don't fault anyone for not trying it. I'm not sure I would have tried
There
it
wasn't
myself.
much demand for silicon that game. Colony didn't get one workshop.
I will say that I disagree with both Zorbaz and Scott's decision to take 2 tiles of silicon, because silicon was,
It was very pricey at one point.
yeah, early on. I think it may have started double price, and then Scott was moving into solar panels, and that's about it. Because after that, it never rose over $50 because it was they just had an insane stockpile of it at all times. And especially for Zorbaz, I feel like he would have benefited so much from that one extra claim that he spent on silicon. Because he spent the 2 claims on silicon, but then he never had the claims to really invest into any silicon-based production at the end of that. So
Yeah, scavengers and robots without any kind of what's it called? No purchase, a claim.
yeah, no
It's
private claim.
difficult.
I will say that Rahi made 250k on entertainment at the end of the day, and that's with Zorbaz cutting into that profit. So there was quite a bit of money to be made on entertainment. It wasn't as excellent as it can be, but
It was you got virtual reality straight after thinking machines.
um,
I think he
yeah,
queued it up. I'm not
yeah,
sure if he finished. Yeah,
yeah, it was finished eventually. Another interesting point about why Scott Cole may have won this game is if you look at the black market and 5 adrenaline boosts.
yeah, and none of them were really. I don't think any of them were contested, even slightly.
That may be the case.
I
Most
know
of
he
them were, for
was.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, I think all the other groups are finished. We should get a
Yeah,
ring on.
we should move on.